Here's a rewritten version of your story, keeping the plot, context, and details intact while changing character names and ensuring natural, standard American English. The length is maintained at approximately 10,000 characters. The sharp crack of gunfire tore through the chilly morning air, yanking me out of sleep before the aroma of brewing coffee could even reach me. My heart slammed against my ribs as I bolted upright, another shot ringing out across my farm. There was no mistaking it. Someone was firing a gun, and not just randomly. They were aiming at something on my property. I threw open the curtains, and my breath caught in my throat. There, smack in the middle of my field, stood Melissa Carver, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, clutching a rifle like she was auditioning for a low-budget action flick. Her manicured hands steadied the barrel as she took aim at one of my prized turkeys. The shot rang out, feathers burst into the air, and the bird crumpled. I was out the door before my brain could fully register the absurdity of it all. My boots hit the dirt, and I sprinted toward her, fury boiling in my chest. "What the hell are you doing?" I bellowed. She turned, fixing me with a look that suggested I was the issue, as if I'd trespassed onto my own land. "I'm handling a problem," she said with a casual shrug, adjusting her flashy designer sunglasses. "These nasty birds kept wandering into my yard. I warned you, Tom." I stared at her, momentarily speechless. Surely she wasn't this unhinged. "You shot my turkeys, my living turkeys, with a rifle?" She rolled her eyes, unfazed. "Oh, calm down. It's just a couple of birds. You farmers act like animals matter more than people. If you'd kept them pinned up like a responsible person, I wouldn't have had to step in." My jaw dropped, then snapped shut. There were so many things wrong with her logic that I didn't know where to start. This was the woman who'd fined a neighbor for leaving their trash cans out 5 minutes past curfew. Yet she thought blasting turkeys in broad daylight was justifiable. Then it hit me. These weren't just any turkeys. They were from Mayor Daniel Grayson's private reserve. A slow grin spread across my face, and Melissa must have noticed because she took a step back. "What?" she snapped. I crossed my arms, suddenly feeling a lot steadier. "Do you know whose turkeys you just killed?" She scoffed. "Yours, obviously." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Not just mine. These belong to Mayor Grayson. You know, the guy who kicked off that big conservation project to protect this breed? The one who personally dropped them off here." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "You're lying," she shot back, but her voice wavered. "Am I?" I nodded toward the lifeless birds. "You just gunned down a protected species. Do you have any clue what kind of trouble that brings?" She paled, but only for a second. "This is absurd," she huffed. "I'll pay for the damn birds, and we'll call it square." I barked out a laugh. "Oh no, Melissa. This isn't some parking ticket you can bribe your way out of. The mayor's obsessed with this project, and he's not going to be thrilled when he hears some HOA tyrant took it upon herself to play vigilante." Her mouth opened, then shut. For once, she looked unsure, and that's when I knew I had her. People like Melissa thrived on control, twisting rules to their advantage, lording power over everyone else. But this was a mess she couldn't talk her way out of, and she was starting to see it. She straightened, jutting her chin out in that infuriating way of hers. "I don't have time for this," she muttered, spinning on her heel. "I'll deal with it later." I let her stalk off because I knew something she didn't. There wouldn't be a later for her. The gears of her downfall were already spinning. Within an hour, I'd called the mayor's office. I didn't even need to embellish. The bare facts were enough to send his assistant into a frenzy. 15 minutes later, Mayor Grayson was on the line. When I told him what happened, the silence on his end was deafening. "She did what?" His voice was calm, but there was a razor-sharp edge to it that made my gut tighten with anticipation. "Shot 3 of them dead because she didn't want them near her lawn," I said. Another long pause. Then, "I'm on my way." I hung up, grinning as I leaned against my porch railing. Melissa had spent years terrorizing this neighborhood with her petty rules and power trips, finding people for mailboxes that weren't the right color, harassing families over unapproved holiday lights, making life hell for anyone who didn't fit her perfect little mold. Now, she'd screwed up in a way she couldn't fix. When the mayor arrived, he was furious. He didn't come alone. Trailing him was a team of legal advisors who looked way too serious for a turkey dispute. Melissa must have spotted the cars pulling up because she stormed out of her house, her usual arrogance plastered on her face. But when she saw the mayor's expression, her confidence flickered. "Mr. Mayor," she started, flashing a fake smile. "What a surprise. If this is about the birds, I assure you it was a misunderstanding." He cut her off, not even blinking. "You killed protected wildlife, Melissa." She let out a nervous laugh. "Well, I mean, technically, you committed a crime," he snapped, his tone slicing through her excuses. "Those turkeys were part of a federally backed conservation program, a symbol of this town's commitment to the environment. And you shot them." Her smile vanished. "It was an accident," she blurted. "I was just keeping them off my property. Surely we can sort this out." The mayor stared at her, then turned to an advisor. "Get legal on this. I want every charge we can file." Melissa's eyes widened. "Wait, let's be reasonable. You lost that privilege when you pulled the trigger," he said coldly. "You're going to regret this, Melissa. Trust me, I watched it unfold with pure satisfaction." This was just the beginning. She thought she had power, but she was about to learn how little she really controlled. The fallout from the turkey massacre hit like a slow-rolling avalanche, and Melissa was right in its path. It took less than an hour for the mayor's team to start digging, pulling records, making calls, drafting legal documents that could crush lives. She still thought she could talk her way out of it. That was her problem. She'd spent so long bullying the neighborhood into submission that she forgot there were people she couldn't bend. Her first sign of real panic came when she barged into the HOA office, demanding the board back her up with a statement. It was a classic move: rally the committee, frame herself as the victim, make it a neighborhood issue. But this time, the room stayed quiet. The board members, who'd suffered her reign for years, weren't about to tie themselves to her sinking ship. One of them, an older guy named Paul, coughed awkwardly. "Melissa, we can't really get involved. This is a legal thing now." Her eyes blazed. "A legal thing? You're just going to sit there and let that farmer and his turkeys ruin me?" A long pause followed. Then a woman named Susan spoke up hesitantly. "I mean, you did shoot them, Melissa." She waved a hand dismissively. "So what? They were on my property. You'd all do the same if wild animals invaded your yards." "I did what had to be done." Paul cleared his throat again. "Well, technically, they were on Tom's land when you shot them." Melissa froze, the cracks in her armor showing. She scanned the room for support, but no one met her gaze. Deep down, they were relishing this. Years of her nonsense had finally caught up, and they weren't about to save her. She switched tactics. "Fine, abandon me then. But if I go down, the whole HOA's credibility goes with me. The mayor won't stop at me. He'll dig into every rule, every fine." "You think you're safe?" That struck a nerve. A few uneasy glances were exchanged. Sensing an opening, she pushed harder. "This town needs order. Without me, it'll fall apart. Imagine what people will get away with if I'm not here." Paul sighed, rubbing his temples. "Melissa, you need to worry about yourself right now. This is bigger than the HOA. It's the law." That's when it sank in. She was on her own. She stormed out, slamming the door, but her grip on the neighborhood was slipping, and she knew it. Next, she tried the mayor's office, marching in to demand a meeting, certain she could bully or charm her way out. She'd pulled strings before, called in favors, twisted stories, made problems vanish. But the assistant barely glanced up from her screen. "The mayor isn't taking meetings with you, Mrs. Carver." Melissa's fists clenched. "This is urgent. He has to see me." Still typing, the assistant replied, "He doesn't, actually. You can leave a statement. His legal team will contact you soon." Melissa's eye twitched. "This is outrageous. I demand," "Ma'am," the assistant cut in, voice flat. "I suggest you stop demanding things." For the first time, Melissa was brushed off like a nobody. Her carefully built power was crumbling, and she couldn't stop it. The story hit the news within a day. By morning, headlines screamed, "HOA president faces backlash for killing protected wildlife." The articles laid it all out. Her trespassing onto my farm, shooting the turkeys, the mayor's response. Leaked security footage didn't help. There she was, in her pricey workout gear, sunglasses perched on her head, casually breaking the law. The neighborhood turned fast. People who'd once cowered under her thumb now piled on. Someone taped articles to her door. Another left a stuffed turkey on her lawn with fake crime tape. The HOA board scrambled to distance itself, digging through records to erase her influence. By day's end, They'd voted her out as president, unanimously. Melissa fought back, calling every lawyer she knew, but her reputation had made too many enemies. Most refused politely, one just laughed and hung up. When she finally found someone desperate enough to take her case, it was too late. The mayor's team had filed charges: destruction of protected wildlife, reckless endangerment, illegal firearm use. Fines would wipe her out, and jail time loomed. She unraveled, showing up uninvited to meetings, ranting about conspiracies, claiming I'd framed her, that the mayor was out to get her. But no one cared. They were too busy laughing. Her fall wasn't slow anymore. It was a nosedive. The HOA booted her without fanfare, and the legal mess grew. Harassment claims, misuse of funds. Every rule she'd weaponized now turned against her. At a public forum, the mayor laid it out. This is a serious crime. We're auditing all HOA actions under Mrs. Carver's tenure. She leapt up, furious. This is insane. I kept this community in line. Laughter erupted. Yeah, like finding my mom for a blue birdhouse, someone yelled. The mayor shut her down. Defend yourself in court. Your reign here is done. The media made her a punchline. Turkey slayer, memes flooded the internet. The HOA's new president, a retired farmer named Henry, scrapped her rules, refunded fines, and announced a turkey festival on my farm to honor the lost birds. It took off. Vendors, crowds, a celebration of everything she'd tried to crush. Her final blow? Community service, on my farm, tending the animals she hated. The day she showed up in an orange vest, I grinned. Welcome to your new gig, Melissa. Hope you're ready to dig in. She glared, silent, as a turkey pecked her shoe. There's a lesson here, I said. Should have left my birds alone. She sighed, defeated, shoveling droppings while the town moved on. The festival thrived, my farm flourished, and the neighborhood breathed free. Melissa finished her service, sold her house, and vanished. No one missed her. Standing on my porch, watching my turkeys roam, I smiled. Justice had a funny way of sorting itself out. They were safe now, and she'd never bother them again.